Okay, sit yourself onto your lift, come into a cross-leg position and draw your shoulders down away from your ears, just lengthening your neck by drawing the shoulders down. Just spend a few moments listening to the sound of your breath as it enters and as it exits. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest, just stretching out the back of your neck. Drawing your shoulders consciously away from your ears, stretching out the back of the neck. And then draw the chin up to the ceiling, just stretching out the front of the neck. And then come back, and then right ear over to the right shoulder, just stretching out the side of the neck. And then back to the center and left ear over to the left shoulder. Just bring in energy, and then come back to the center, just bring in energy back into the neck. Release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste. Press the palms firmly together, lengthen from your armpits into your elbows. Take deep inhalations and exhalations, listening to the breath. Filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And emptying your lungs from the top to the bottom. Soften your jaw and your tongue and your throat. And with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Again, lowering your shoulders away from your ears at the same time, just stretching out the back of your neck. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance as you lower your hands back to your knees, bring the palms facing upwards. Just connect the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. Just hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, up into the heart area. Take a deep inhalation, and with the exhalation, turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across, and your shoulders and your ribs, keeping the neck soft, just turning the spine, using the out breath to intensify the turn. Just observe how your body responds to the turn, if there are any points of particular resistance. Just drawing your consciousness beyond that resistance, acknowledging it, but drawing your focus beyond it into areas of the body that don't present resistance, just to balance out the sensation. Come back to the center, hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, and then turn to the left, drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders. Lifting up into the chest, turning the abdomen, turning the ribs and the shoulders, using the out breath to intensify the turn. And then come back to the center. Just come off your lift and come onto your knees. Just sit down on the heels, big toes together, your knees apart. Just have a little wriggle into your hips, a little wriggle into the inner heel, and then charge up the shins, pressing the shin bone into the shin skin, activating your legs, lifting up into your chest, and then come forwards, extending forwards, stretching your arms away, spreading the fingers, spreading the palms. Again, just feeling your body's response to the pose. Just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. Drawing the tailbone down towards the heels, trying to keep the heels in contact with the seat bones in contact with the heels, lengthening into the arms, lengthening into the shoulders, spreading the fingers, spreading the palms. Come up onto your knees, have your hands as wide apart as the mat, turn your toes under, and then raise the seat bones up to the ceiling. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Coming up into dog down, lifting the seat bones, activating the fronts of the thighs, pushing the fronts of the thighs into the backs of the thighs, lifting the backs of the thighs up towards the seat bones, lifting the seat bones away from the backs of the thighs, pushing the kneecaps through to the back of the knee, the shins through to the backs of the calves, turning the fronts of the legs inwards so that the heels start to separate. Just focus on deep inhalations and exhalations. Keeping the arms straight, keeping the palms spread. and then step forwards. Come up into standing position and then get some blocks for your hands for half uttanasana. Bring your feet as wide apart as your mat. Turning your toes inwards, lift up into the chest, elevating the heart area upwards, squeezing the elbows together and then hinge at the hips. Keeping your head lifted, your chin driving forwards, and then find the blocks beyond fingertips. Pressing the fronts of the thighs into the backs of the thighs, lifting the seat bones up towards the ceiling, projecting the chin and the chest forwards. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. If you can go down a little lower, then do. Just if you've got a bad back, then just stay at the higher lift unless it feels okay to come down. So I've had a really bad back over the last few weeks, but it's starting to recover. So it feels okay for me to come down. So while it feels okay to come down, I'm coming up a little because I noticed that when I went all the way down, I wasn't activating my legs as I should be. Probably in subconscious protectionism of my back. So the leg activation is really important. Without that, you possibly create more problems. So the higher I come up, the easier it becomes to activate the legs. So it's good to sometimes go down and then come up, and then just observe how the highest level gives you lots of space. Okay, and then bend your knees on the way up if you need to. Bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position. Come back into Tadasana. So have the inner edge of your feet together, lifting up into the chest. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump the feet apart. Turn your left toes in and your right leg and foot all the way out, and then face the front, lift up into the chest. Turn the legs outwards. Stretch out into the arms and then reach down. Find the shin. Just stay at a height with the hand on the shin so that you can really move yourself into that right hip, drawing it forwards, drawing the back of the hip forwards toward the front of the hip, opening up in the groin region at the front, turning the chest, and then reaching up. Maintaining the action of that back leg. So when the instruction becomes front leg centric, what happens with the back leg? Just look up, breathe in and out through the nose just to clear out the sinuses. And then come back to the centre. Swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. Just being mindful of your foot positions, and then reach over. Find the shin. Stay high on the shin to start off with at least, so that you can move into that front hip, the back hip, the back of the hip moving into the front of the hip opening upwards. Lifting the front thigh all the way up into the hip socket. Keeping the left side of the torso long. Look up and breathe in and out through the nose to clear out the sinuses. And then bring that top hand down onto the floor on the big toe side of the left foot. Bring the other hand onto the little toe side of the foot. And then step yourself back into dog down. So if there's any reason why that causes problems, then just come out of trikonasana normally and come into dog down from your knees. We're doing a bit of a whistle stop even session this morning. So we're coming straight into dog down from trikonasana. So from here we're going to go into dog up. So keep the legs really straight, tighten the kneecaps, tighten the thighs, and then swing the hips forwards. Swing the hips forwards. Lift the chest, keep the legs away from the floor. Turn the crease of the elbows to face the front to broaden the collarbone. Push into the heels. Turn the tailbone in. Lift from the abdomen to the diaphragm, to the collarbone, to the chin. And then come back up into dog down. Just observe the body's response to the pose, the energy that it releases as we come out of the pose. And then one more time, swinging the hips forwards, keeping the arms straight and long, lifting from the wrists up into the armpits, pushing into the heels, lifting up into the chest. And then back up into dog down. And then come down onto your knees and sit back on your heels for a moment. Just lifting up into the chest, feeling the energy that you have released through the shoulders and into the torso, into the arms. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. So we're going to come to rajakpotasana. So come onto all fours. So have your knees underneath your hips and your hands underneath your shoulders. Just have a little wriggle from one side to the other, just opening up the side hips. Just lengthening and broadening the outer buttock. Just finding that space in the hips. And then come back to the center. And then bring the right knee to make contact with the right wrist, bringing that right foot underneath the left thigh. So that that right foot sitting underneath the left thigh, the left hip, and then stretch that left leg behind you. Come up onto the fingertips. Activate that back leg like you're doing Tadasana, turning the front of the thigh inwards, so that you can feel the back of the thigh broaden and the hips coming level. Come up onto the fingertips and then lift up into the chest. Breathing evenly, push the knees away from each other, but keep that back leg firmly in Tadasana. Shoulders down away from your ears. And then bring the palms of the hands down, walk the left leg back in, and then come back onto all fours. Just have another little wriggle in the hips, just feeling how it feels different. And then come back to the center, come back to the neutral position. This time bring the left knee to make contact with the left wrist, bringing the left foot underneath that right thigh and hip. And then stretch that right leg away. Come up onto the fingertips, activate that back leg like you're in Tadasana. Turning the front of the thigh inwards, lifting up into the chest, breathing evenly, deeply listening to the breath. Long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. And then bring palms flat back into the floor, and then walk back in with that left leg, so right leg, sorry, and then sit back on your heels and stretch forwards into Adho Mukha virasana. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders and push yourself up into seated position. And then bring yourself into cross legs. Just come into a cross-legged position. So you can sit either directly on the floor, but if you find that when you sit directly on the floor you sink in the chest, then sit on a folded blanket or on some blocks. So hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, draw in your shoulders down away from your ears. Just feel that space in the shoulders and in the neck and in the chest. Listening to the breath. And with an exhalation, just very gently turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across and your ribs and your shoulders. Drawing your belly button across from the left to the right so that it's pointing at that right knee and beyond it. And then come back to the center, lift up into the chest, elevate the heart area up to the ceiling. And then with an exhalation, turn to the left. And then very gently come back to the center. Just hold on to your knees and broaden the chest, open the chest, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just get a couple of blocks for the sides of your hips for sukhasana. And then reach underneath the knee. Bring your right elbow down onto the block. Sometimes it feels like you kind of just collapse into that right elbow, doesn't it? So push that right elbow really consciously into the floor and then lengthen across into that left hip. So you really press that left hip down. Turn the abdomen to face the ceiling and then reach up and over, looking underneath the armpit. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Again, another good pose for sinus clearing. So looking up to the ceiling, but underneath the armpit. Sinus clearing is nothing to do with your armpit, by the way. Keeping that top arm lifted, top arm straight, reaching out of that left hip, opening up the ribs on the left side. And then come back to the center. Just come back to the middle and observe the difference in the two sides of the body. Observe the energy that you release. So that's quite an intense pose, isn't it? Reach underneath the left knee and bring your left elbow onto the block. Again, if you feel like you collapse into that elbow, you probably do. But the way to remedy that is to push that elbow into the floor and then lengthen across into that right hip, so that you feel that stretch on the right side immediately. Turn the chest up to face the ceiling and then lift up and over. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, spreading the fingers of that lifted hand. Keeping that right hip down on the floor, feeling the stretch of the side abdominal walls and the side ribs. And then come back to the center. Just hold onto your knees. Lift up into the chest. Just feel the energy of the chest and the torso. Just one more time, turn to the right. Digging that back hand firmly into the floor. Lifting the chest as much as you can. And see if you can turn a little more deeply. Just breathing in and out through the nose, observing if the nostrils or the sinuses feel different. Come back to the center. Lift and open the chest and then come over to the left. And then come back to the center. Just come down onto your back and just have a blanket underneath your head. We're not going into shavasana quite yet. We're just going to raise the legs in viparita, karanhi. You can have the blanket underneath your head, stop it from rolling back. So hold onto the sides of the mat, pull your knees in towards your chest, and then raise the legs. Press the sacrum spine down into the floor, so the sacrum is just above the tailbone. It's the between the tailbone and the lumbar. So press that area, that plate of bones into the floor, lengthen up into the heels, turning the fronts of the legs inwards, breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. So just a shorter session, but invigorating, and hopefully it will help you to just bring energy into your body. And then bend your knees, bring the feet back down onto the floor, stretch your legs out, come up onto your elbows, and then guide yourself down. Let the knees fall apart. If you're wearing glasses, it's nice to take them off for the last couple of minutes. And then just allow the body to release into the floor. Just let the muscles unhook from the arms and the legs. Just let the body relax into the floor. Let the body become heavy. Let the body become heavy, and observe that sensation of lightness that radiates from the bones and into the muscles. Into the muscles and the organs. And into the flesh and the skin. Use your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that feeling of energetic lightness down into the toes, into the fingers, and up into the top of the head. Just basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And when you're ready, just gently wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers, and then bend your knees. Bring your knees in toward your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just giving your back a gentle massage along the floor. And then roll over onto your right side to stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into seated position, just a final cross legs with your hands in Namaste, just a final spinal lift. Draw in your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists bring to the body and to the mind, and then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside, and then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. Tip of the index finger in contact with the tip of the thumb. Just a gesture of wisdom and peacefulness we can carry into our day. And then when you're ready to raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel like you've given yourself a good old stretch and you've got some good energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.